Welcome back. We've got some absolutely massive stories to break down for you this week. I mean, Ubisoft is making some seriously wild moves. One of the biggest players in VR is basically backing out, and we've got the first real concrete details on the God of War TV show. All right, let's just jump right in. Seriously, from huge studio closures to major casting reveals and some, well, very confusing release dates, it feels like the ground is shifting under our feet. So let's start with one of the biggest players out there that's been making some serious waves. First up, yeah, we have to talk about Ubisoft. It's been a packed, kind of chaotic week for them, and it all starts with a really interesting experiment they're running in one of their biggest franchises. So, The Division 2 is getting this new realism mode. And this could be a huge tell for where Ubisoft is heading. Forget those bullet sponge enemies. Now, a headshot is a kill. Simple as that. There's no XP, ammo is super scarce, and your skills are way more limited. They're basically stripping away all the RPG layers and turning it into a hardcore tactical shooter. And here's why that's so interesting. Ubisoft loves to test out ideas that end up spreading across their other games. So don't be shocked if we see something just like this pop up in a future Assassin's Creed. This kind of uncertainty, it ties right into their release schedule, which, let's be honest, is a total puzzle right now. The Prince of Persia remake was rumored for January 16th, a date that has obviously come and gone. Now we're hearing from leakers that the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake might be shooting for March 19th. But the really critical date here is that April deadline. For financial reasons, both of these massive games really need to ship before then. And this is why that April deadline is so important. Ubisoft reported a net loss of almost $159 million in the last financial year. That is a ton of pressure to get the Black Flag remake, which is pretty much a guaranteed bestseller, out the door before their current financial year closes at the end of March. We'll be watching their investor call on February 12th very closely for any clues. All right, let's switch gears from the console to the big screen. The whole video game to TV show trend is just exploding right now, and we've got some major updates on two of the biggest franchises heading our way. And it is official. Ryan Hurst has been confirmed to play Kratos in the live-action show for Amazon Prime. Now, this is a fascinating casting. I mean, not only does he absolutely have the look and the presence from shows like Sons of Anarchy, but get this. He was the motion capture artist and the voice of Thor in God of War Ragnarok, so he's already deep inside this world and has a real relationship with the creative team. Now for the rumors, and you should definitely take these with a huge grain of salt. Word on the street is that Alistair Duncan could come back to do his incredible voice work as Mir. We've also got some potential names for Heimdall, Thor, and Sif. But what's really interesting here is that these are all characters from Ragnarok. That suggests the show might actually blend story elements from both modern games right from the get-go, instead of just adapting them one by one. Okay, so from one dream to another one that, well, might be fading fast. For years, Meta has been the biggest spender, the biggest believer in VR gaming. And this week, that all changed in a really sudden, really dramatic way. Meta has just made some shocking moves, closing down major, super respected studios. And look, these aren't small-time players. Armature Studio gave us the phenomenal Resident Evil 4 VR. Sanzura Games made Asgard's Wrath, which is one of the highest-rated VR games ever. And yet, Meta has just shut them down, while also hitting the studio making the upcoming Batman Arkham Shadow with huge layoffs. This is a massive signal that they're retreating from big-budget VR games. And if you're wondering why, well, here it is. According to Bloomberg, Meta has lost a staggering $70 billion chasing the metaverse and VR. With losses on that kind of scale and no mainstream adoption in sight, a pivot was pretty much inevitable. Now, they're shifting their focus over to AI for wearables and phones. So, what's really holding VR back? Well, one of the best arguments is that the tech, cool as it is, just fails two simple tests for most people. First, it's not comfortable enough to wear for long periods when you just want to relax. And second, for a lot of us, it just doesn't fundamentally make the kinds of games we already love better. It seems like until the hardware is as seamless and easy as putting on a pair of sunglasses, VR is probably going to stay a pretty niche thing. Okay, let's wrap things up by looking ahead. We've got some juicy rumors floating around about the PS5 Pro and a week that is absolutely packed with confirmed reveals and releases. So the rumor mill is churning about a big software update for a potential PS5 Pro. We're hearing about things like AI upscaling to boost image quality, the ability to boost frame rates even on games that are capped, and even upscaling for classic games. Now, the sources for these are a little shaky, which is why you're seeing a 2-star rating here, but still, the idea of a console getting a huge performance jump just from software, that's pretty exciting. And finally, get your calendars out because this next week is stacked. January 20th, we're getting the reveal of the new Life is Strange game. Then on the 21st, fans of classic Ubisoft games get 60 frames per second updates for Far Cry 3, Primal, and Blood Dragon. But the main event is for sure January 22nd, the Xbox Developer Direct. We are expecting a deep dive on the new Fable and the first ever gameplay of Forza Horizon 6. And speaking of Forza, a May 19th release date for that game has also been leaked. Wow. It is a packed schedule with some huge titles just around the corner. So I guess that leaves us with one final thought. With so much on the way, what's the one game or reveal that you're most excited to see next? Thanks for tuning in.